If you did not see part 1 video, the link will be in the description. Let's get into part 2 video. Success, Leah quickly learned, came with its own heavy weight. Within weeks of her speech at the tourism board meeting, her phone was ringing non-stop. Vendors wanted coaching. Hoteliers wanted partnerships. Even government officials hinted at programs she might lead. At first, Leah felt exhilarated, but soon the pace became overwhelming. Her days began before sunrise, with her laptop open and her coffee barely touched, as she typed out lesson plans, responded to emails, and scheduled meetings. By mid-morning, she was at the market, weaving through the stalls to check on vendors, offering quick advice and encouragement. Afternoons were spent preparing for workshops, and evenings often stretched late into the night, with Leah still hunched over her desk, surrounded by notebooks filled with ideas. It didn't take long before exhaustion crept in. She would forget to eat, skip her morning walks by the ocean, and sometimes even lose her voice from speaking so much. Worst of all, Leah feared that if she spread herself too thin, she might fail the very people who depended on her. One night, after a particularly long day of back-to-back coaching sessions, she sat slumped in her chair, staring at her to-do list. It seemed endless. For the first time since she started, Leah wondered if she had made a mistake. Could one 19-year-old girl really carry the weight of an entire island's entrepreneurial spirit? The next morning, she made a decision. Leah called 2 college students she knew, bright, ambitious young people who were eager to learn and who shared her passion for community development. She invited them to join her team as assistants. With their help, Leah created a structured program for vendors, beginner, intermediate, and advanced training sessions. This gave her work rhythm and clarity. She also launched one-on-one coaching for vendors with unique challenges, ensuring no one felt overlooked. Together, the small team divided responsibilities, designing flyers, coordinating venues, handling social media, and even helping with translations for tourists. The change was immediate. Leah finally had space to breathe, to rest, and to think about the bigger picture. Her vision wasn't just surviving, it was growing stronger. Still, she knew this was only the beginning. With growth came new obstacles, and Leah was determined to face them head-on. Just when Leah thought she had found her rhythm, life reminded her that growth rarely comes without hurdles. A shipment of packaging materials for one vendor's products was delayed for weeks, leaving the vendor frustrated and sales lost. Marcia, the tea seller who had been so enthusiastic, could barely maintain her new momentum as her sample pack sat in storage, untouched. At the same time, Kelvin, the fisherman, tried a new pricing strategy Leah had suggested. He raised his rates slightly to attract hotels, but didn't communicate clearly to his local customers. The backlash was immediate. Locals complained, tourists hesitated, and Kelvin's confidence faltered. Leah watched him wrestle with embarrassment and disappointment, feeling helpless despite her expertise. Then came criticism from unexpected quarters. A few older vendors who had once mocked her began resurfacing, claiming her strategies worked only in theory. Book knowledge won't save you. One muttered loudly at the market, watching the frustrated vendors. Another accused Leah of interfering unnecessarily, suggesting she had no idea how the market really worked. Leah could have felt defeated. She could have retreated into her office, locked her notebook, and given up. But instead, she chose transparency. At her next workshop, she started by sharing the setbacks, delayed shipments, missteps in pricing, and the frustration that even she, the expert, could not always predict outcomes. Then she asked the room a simple question: what can we learn from this? The room, initially tense, slowly buzzed with discussion. Vendors shared ideas on managing supply chains, communicating price changes, and testing new products in small batches before rolling them out. Each mistake became a lesson, and each lesson built confidence. By the end of the session, Leah realized something profound. Entrepreneurship wasn't about avoiding mistakes. It was about adapting, learning, and growing despite them. Every setback was a stepping stone, every failure an opportunity to teach resilience. Vendors left inspired, armed not just with strategies, but with a mindset that mistakes weren't the end. They were part of the journey. That night, Leah sat on her balcony overlooking the ocean. The moonlight shimmered on the waves as she jotted down reflections in her notebook. She knew that challenges would continue, that criticism would never fully disappear. But she also knew something more powerful. She and the vendors were stronger than any setback. Leah smiled, feeling her resolve deepen. This wasn't just about business. It was about teaching courage, persistence, and vision. By the end of the year, Leah could hardly recognize the marketplace she had first walked through. Stalls were vibrant, logos and signs gleaming in the sunlight. Herbal teas, spices, jewelry, and seafood were packaged and displayed in ways that told stories, inviting tourists to take home a piece of the island. Vendors were smiling, chatting with customers confidently, and earning more than they had ever imagined. But for Leah, success wasn't just about one island. It was about the entire Caribbean. She saw islands nearby where vendors faced the same struggles she had once witnessed. With her assistants by her side, Leah began drafting a plan to take her workshops regionally. She envisioned a network of thriving vendors sharing knowledge across islands, lifting communities through entrepreneurship. She reached out to contacts she had made through the tourism board. Hoteliers and shop owners were eager to participate. Cruise operators promised to introduce tourists to authentic local goods. Vendors who had once been skeptical volunteered to mentor newcomers, sharing what they had learned under Leah's guidance. The preparation was exhausting. She spent long nights mapping travel routes, coordinating venues, and designing presentations that could be adapted for different island cultures. She also created a mentorship guide, allowing vendors to teach one another while Leah focused on scaling her program. Every detail mattered, from translation tips for international tourists to sustainable packaging ideas that minimized environmental impact. Leah's vision began to take shape. She imagined a day when every small vendor in the Caribbean could thrive without leaving their home island, when local goods were celebrated globally, and when entrepreneurship was accessible to anyone with talent and drive. One evening, while walking along the beach after a day of planning, Leah's assistant asked, "Leah, Do you ever feel scared? Leah paused, staring at the moon reflecting off the water. Every day, she admitted. Scaling this is hard. Mistakes will happen. People will doubt us. But fear isn't the enemy. If we let fear win, nothing will change. And I refuse to let that happen. Her assistant smiled. I think that's why everyone believes in you. Leah nodded. She knew the journey ahead would be long, unpredictable, and full of challenges. But she also knew that with each step, with each workshop, and with each vendor she empowered, she was building something bigger than herself. The morning of Leah's book launch arrived like a golden sunrise over the turquoise sea. After months of workshops, regional planning, and mentoring dozens of vendors, she finally held in her hands the culmination of her work, The Entrepreneur's Guide to the Islands. The book was more than a manual. It was a tapestry of strategies, stories, and inspiration drawn from her experiences on the island. Vendors she had guided over the months stood proudly beside her, holding copies of the book and sharing their successes. Marcia, with her redesigned herbal tea packaging, beamed as she told a small crowd about her newfound confidence. Kelvin the fisherman laughed as he recounted landing a contract with a popular resort, something he never imagined possible before Leah's workshops. Each story was a testament to perseverance, creativity, and vision. Leah took a deep breath as she signed the first copy. Her hand shook slightly, but her heart felt steady and full. She looked around at the gathering. Islanders, tourism officials, hoteliers, and young students who had been inspired to follow in her footsteps. It was a moment she had dreamed of, but never truly imagined experiencing so fully. She spoke to the crowd, her voice steady and warm. "This book isn't about me," she said. "It's about the people of our islands, the vendors, the artisans, the dreamers. It's about showing that with guidance, creativity, and courage, anyone can turn their passion into something extraordinary." I hope it inspires not just our island, but all islands to believe in the power of entrepreneurship. The applause was thunderous. Tears welled in Leah's eyes as she looked at the people she had helped. They weren't just clients, they were partners, collaborators, and now part of a legacy she had helped create. Later, as the crowd dispersed and the sun dipped low over the horizon, Leah walked along the beach with her notebook in hand. She reflected on the journey, the nervous walks through the market, the first 6 people at her inaugural workshop, the moments of doubts, the setbacks, and the triumphs. Every step had been a lesson. Every challenge had shaped her. Leah smiled, feeling a surge of pride and gratitude. She was no longer just a young girl with an idea. She was a leader, a teacher, and a change maker. And though the book launch marked a milestone, she knew the journey was far from over. The islands were full of dreamers, and now, with the right guidance, their dreams could grow, flourish, and change the world. Leah closed her notebook, feeling the salty breeze on her face, and whispered to herself, "This is only the beginning." Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.